And what we're losing that time isn't our storytellers, isn't our musicians, it's our friends. We are outsourcing friendship. We are replacing the social with the parasocial. Friendship is now an international parasocial relationship where every member can be replaced by someone else at the drop of a hat. And we're lonelier for it. I'm not in your house, but I'm assuming you're a person. And if you're a person, you know that you're not good enough. You're normal, average. If you just don't measure up with the expectations these days, that's why no one likes you. You're just not good enough. That may have actually felt a little bit too real, and I'm genuinely sorry if it did, because that's not normal. It's not how humans have evolved to be or to think or to interact, and it's really very new for us to assess ourselves in this way. And I wanted to talk about the changes that have occurred over my own lifetime. I am 40 years old. 40. I don't actually know which order it needs to be. But that's how many years I've been on this particular planet, at least in this particular lifetime. And when I was your age, things were very different than they are now. Instead of having the internet to tell us all the things that we are and aren't and should be, we had TV and movies and magazines for that. Social media wasn't a thing yet. And that meant we had to rely on social media to inculcate our youth, to shape their values and preferences and morals and aesthetics. Young women in particular were dependent upon these sources of information, these guides to beauty and proper etiquette to become polished and respectable women. You had to be beautiful. That's been the case for as long as I've been here. But the beauty standards weren't online. They were in print, they were in film, they weren't at home with us, capable to be clicked into every second of every day. That didn't stop us from having unrealistic standards we tried to attain. A lot of people have been talking about how the super skinny ideal that was popular when I was young is coming back in fashion thanks to Ozempic making normal body sizes attainable. Naturally, the actual standard has to be a few steps beyond what most people can attain, so if normal people can be skinny again, or at least healthy weights, then the ideal obviously has to be stick thin. What other way could we possibly determine what people wanted? I'm not exactly ecstatic to see this ideal come back into fashion. I didn't resemble it back then, and I don't resemble it now. I've got those things. And I also have a history of trying to adhere to those standards in unhealthy ways that I don't want to talk about here for pragmatic reasons because the algorithm hates it. It's a bad trend. We don't like it. But when I really think about it, I have to admit that it's not any worse than boob jobs and Brazilian butt lifts, which, no matter what happens, we find some way to tell people that they aren't enough and they need to fix it, ideally with surgery, and if not with surgery, then with incredible exercise routines. We often actually have them get the surgery and claim it was just exercise routines, which I'm increasingly thinking is better than just saying, yes, get the surgery, we need more surgery, we all need surgery. At least that way, getting the surgery isn't quite as normalized and fewer people risk their health under knives and with little injector needles just for the sake of looking prettier. I actually think some degree of beauty is objective. There are things that have always been valued. But fashion is subjective. And fashion changes, and what was the Wilde quote? I have to go look. I'm sorry, I didn't plan for this. Okay, so fashion is a form of ugliness so intolerable that we have to change it every 6 months. That was Oscar Wilde. It was true then, and it's true now. And we all hate it. I hope we all hate it. I like style, but fashion, I don't care about your trends. Beauty standards aren't new. Fashion isn't new. I just read you a quote from Oscar Wilde, who died in I'll have to look up what year he died, but it was a long time ago. He's been gone some time. But even he struggled against fashion. And historical fashion can actually be a lot of fun to look into, but I think part of why it's fun is that it doesn't impact our psychology today. We aren't being convinced to take our hair and be all Gibson girly. That's not in fashion right now, so we can do whatever we want. Well, we can't do whatever we want if we care about fashion, but no one's telling us to do that, so it feels more innocent and a little bit less grating, even though back then it would have been just as draconian as modern standards are now. And it goes back even further than the Victorian era, because even way back in the medieval era, women were putting belladonna drops inside their eyes to dilate their pupils and get that starry-eyed gaze that drew in the men of their affections. Or the women, if they were so inclined. Aren't we all? But I do think things have gotten more pervasive, just because the nature of media has changed, and media has always been a lot of what conveyed these standards and expectations and aspirational notions of what we ought to look and act like. Our continual and constant access to media means we can now fuss over parts of ourselves that previous generations never even thought about. Modern women don't just stress over how to put up their hair in the most elaborate and big and egregious way possible. These girls are even stressing about their hairlines. I mean, I actually don't know if my hairline is any good. I'll do the rest of it like this. In the 1990s, the telephone pole, thin, skinny look was in, and a lot of people on the media talked about it like it was a plague consuming young girls, making them diseased in the pursuit of this impossible ideal. It was basically a moral panic, and while there was some truth to it, most of us didn't really expect fiction and reality to resemble each other particularly closely. We certainly didn't expect it to be constant or regular for the best things that we might share with other people to happen. We knew that we dressed up sometimes, and other times we just looked normal. Stars and models might look perfect all the time, but they had to do it. We didn't, and we were okay with that expectation. A lot of us reveled in it because we didn't have to be that restricted. We didn't have to look that perfect all the time. We could just lounge about in our pajamas with our hair looking all messy, and that was okay. All those people in magazines lived in another world, and even on an emotional level, that's what it felt like to us. There was them, and there was us, and never the two shall meet. What actually exists around us, it's not curated, and it's not edited or filtered. We don't take out the outtakes when we're talking to our family. All the mistakes, all the gaps are there all the time, which is kind of horrifying if you're used to the online world where we have Facetune, where we have Photoshop, where we have filters, where we can edit out all the times that we stutter and stumble and breathe too loud and speak in nonsensical and hissing ways. We can rely on that. We can think of it as necessary to present our best selves. And so does everyone else. This is the norm on the internet. You don't share everything because that would be annoying. Because so much of our interaction has started taking place online, especially amongst young people, we don't look at each other, we look at our phones. That division between media and normal life, that melted with social media because it feels real, it feels human, it feels like ordinary people that we're walking among because we are also on these platforms with the same kind of account doing the same kind of things. We think we ought to be able to measure up because, well, what's the difference between them and us? Nothing, apparently. Social media wasn't bad at first. Initially, you just kept in touch with people that you knew in person. You knew someone, you looked them up online, and that's how you determined who you were reading, whose pictures you were looking at, all of that. It was all about extending the physical space so that we could read and interact with the people we cared about even from home. And that was nice. There weren't bizarre expectations because everyone was just being themselves. The world seemed more connected than it ever had been because you used to have these blocked off spaces where you only had your family, your friends, your coworkers, your fellow students. They were all somewhere else you couldn't access or really get in touch with in any meaningful way. I mean, phones were a thing, but they were different. They didn't have pictures. Physical space ripped us apart from each other. Social media tried to mend that wound. It let us connect with each other, even from home, and That was pretty cool, actually. The big thing that changed it is the retweet, the repost. These changed social media from a way to connect with your friends and the people you know to a way to advertise yourself or your products or whatever lifestyle you were exemplifying for money. I remember the first time I saw a retweet, I didn't actually know what I was seeing. I was there to keep up with my friends because they were suddenly more interested in social media than actually talking privately, which I'm guilty of that too these days, but back then it was kind of alienating. Still, I was on social media to read the posts of the people I actually cared about. And I saw a post that was quite puzzling because it wasn't the normal subject matter or syntax or style that I expected from my friend, but I thought it was one of her posts. Her name was above it, her icon was above it, but it didn't feel like her. Soon I looked closer and I figured out that it wasn't her. She was sharing something someone else had said, and I didn't understand. My actual thought was, why would I care about what some stranger says? I mean, it's great that she cares. I'm happy for her, but why do I need to see this? That kind of thing has become the norm now. And a lot of us even craft what we create, what we put online for those purposes. We want strangers to see it. We want friends to share it so strangers can see it, so we can pull more people into our web of influence and become bigger and infect more people in the world and maybe even make a profit off of it. That's not what this used to be, but it is what it is now. And I was very, very confused while this was transitioning. In fact, I pulled away from social media because of it, because I was there to keep up with my friends. My friends weren't really accessible. I was suddenly seeing random things that they thought were cool, and I didn't care what random strangers had to say. It took me a long time to start caring about random strangers. But now it's the norm. Now we care about strangers and we expect strangers to care about us. We're no longer confining ourselves to a local market of people that we know in person, people who know us and have met us and have spent time with us and seen all of our outtakes. No, we're curating ourselves to compete in a global market. We didn't evolve for this. We evolved to form tribes, not international communities where every member is fungible. But social media wasn't built around that. It was originally, but as time moved on, the focus moved away from connecting people who already knew each other to introducing people to people they've never met before and couldn't meet in person. In some ways, that's great. It meant we could connect with interesting people, smart people, charismatic people that we never would have encountered otherwise. But it also means that it got harder and harder for each of us to win that kind of attention from the people near to us. Making friends used to be trivial. Now, if you want a friend, someone that you can really talk to and spend time with, you're competing against the entire world of influencers and entertainers begging for the attention of people who might otherwise be your friend. And yeah, we're all shittier friends for it too. We're just as likely to be sucked up by those brilliant and alluring and attractive people instead of paying attention to the people near us who need our attention and affection a lot more, but have less obvious assets to grant to us. The people we know in person just aren't as entertaining as the people online, so of course we gravitate to the people online, and so does everyone who could potentially know us in real life. Hundreds of years ago, novelists replaced our friends and family with the gift of gab. Instead of sitting around a fire and listening to each other tell stories, we started reading to ourselves. We let the professionals handle it. Later, radio was invented and we could listen to songs produced by professionals and broadcast over airwaves straight into our living room, when before that we would have sat around a piano or a guy with a harmonica or a guitar, and we would have sung to each other and played music to each other. That was a normal way to spend time as a family. All of these were normal ways to spend time with each other, but they were replaced by media progressively as time went on. Novels, radio, TV. With every step, we got further from the people that we previously cared about and interacted with, and spent more and more of our time and attention on these foreign, professional, polished sources of entertainment and amusement and engagement. Social media is one more step in that progression. And what we're losing that time isn't our storytellers, isn't our musicians, it's our friends. We are outsourcing friendship. We are replacing the social with the parasocial, because the people we know parasocially seem so much more perfect and so much more beautiful and so much more interesting than the people that we see in our day-to-day lives, and we're lonelier for it. Suddenly, we're all there. We're all equal to all the stars who are producing their polished stuff with teams and editing and all of that gadgetry behind them. And we're trying to gain attention in that pool, gain friends, form relationships, keep relationships in that pool with all of that competition. And that sets ridiculous standards for us to meet. Standards even the professionals don't meet. They just have a team behind them and tools behind them and lots of experience so that they can give that impression more easily than the average person who hasn't developed those skills or attained those resources or gotten that many people behind them yet. Friendship isn't just meeting your neighbor and growing close over time anymore. Friendship is now an international parasocial relationship where every member can be replaced by someone else at the drop of a hat. And we all feel that because we all live in that world. Young people seem hit particularly hard by this, understandably. People my age, people older than me, we've seen worlds, and we probably still largely live in a world where individuals matter, where we don't have to be spectacular to get someone's attention and to warrant someone's affection. We just have it. We don't have to perform all the time, and I'm not sure young people have that anymore. They live in a world where everyone is equal, and while that means everyone has opportunities that were reserved for stars in my day, it also means that everyone compares themselves to stars. Well, not everyone. I'm sure some people are sensible, but it's very common. And it's a huge driving force behind the loneliness epidemics that we currently experience. Who's going to pay attention to their friends when all these influencers and entertainers are so amusing and so accessible? I mean, we do. Some of us do, some of the time, but not like we used to. We used to go to them first. And that's so rare now. A lot of us are just normal people. The average is essential, and it's actually a really nice balance of positive traits. But it doesn't really stand out on a global market. So we tend to undervalue it, both in ourselves and in other people, which is why we pursue so many aesthetics and so many ways of standing out and ways to be exceptional. But being well-balanced is exceptional. It's just like these excessive, absolutely gorgeous and over-the-top. We don't need all that fancy stuff. We need people who are reliable, who are there, who we trust. You can't trust someone who edits out all of their mistakes. You don't know someone who edits out all of their mistakes. But so many of us expect to be people without those mistakes. And we judge other people that we know for making serious mistakes. We don't think, oh, they're learning. We think, oh, they're a horrible person and they didn't even want to edit that out. And that's so often untrue. Because we're also used to proving ourselves amongst all of the people of the world, two main effects have become pervasive, especially amongst young people. One, the adherence to and the pursuit of insanely high and constantly changing beauty standards. It was there when I was young, I talked about that, but it really has become more extreme. No one actually looks at you askance if you're getting fillers or a nose job or anything else. These things used to be taboo, and now it's just what you have to do if you want to be pretty enough for anyone to want to look at you. And the other thing, and I actually think this is arguably more pervasive because it's not just external, is that we've become terrified of cringe. We don't want to be embarrassed or to do things that might vicariously embarrass others. We want to behave in ways that are acceptable, desirable, edgy in a way that's good. The fact that edginess now has specific ways of being astounds me. But certain types of edgy are good, and certain types of edgy are like, oof, you're just a bad person. Don't you understand this is supposed to be a joke? This fear of cringe seems particularly pervasive amongst the youth, and honestly it always was. But it wasn't as extreme when I was a kid, because, once again, global versus local market. The local market had a lot of cringe, so not being the cringiest was not that high of a bar, whereas now, everyone is compared to everyone else. That wasn't the case before social media. You could make more mistakes, you could have gaffes, you could be awkward, you could be all kinds of things that you can still be now, but people will tell you it's cringe and you'll go, I shouldn't do that, I shouldn't be cringe. But, of course, you should be. Mind you, I am a millennial and we are known for being cringy. But the key, and the thing that I think a lot of younger people miss out on, is that we're cringy because we expect to be loved and we expect to be accepted even when we're doing awkward and embarrassing things. We grew up getting attention, getting affection, getting love and approval, even when we were being a little weird or strange or awkward or even kind of hateful or inappropriate sometimes. Whereas now, especially if you do it online, you're gonna be told that you're cringe or delusional or deranged when you're just being an ordinary person. And there's nothing really wrong with that. There's also nothing wrong with being a little bit ridiculous, but the younger generations seem to feel like there is something wrong with that. And young people always put more effort into being cool than older people. They always worry more that they're going to make fools of themselves. Part of that's just immaturity. But it is more extreme than it was when I was younger. The people now are about as self-conscious as I was at their age, and that's an illness. You should seek help. Your whole generation should apparently seek help. Fortunately, a lot of you are, so that's very cool. I mean that genuinely, that's very cool. I like how that's become more normalized and we're actually doing the things that will make us better. We should be seeking out actual connection with people who are near to us. But that feels out of reach because we're competing with everyone in the world to warrant that attention. It's a horrible cycle. If we aren't entertaining enough, people half the world away will be. If we aren't beautiful enough, people half the world away will be. The really horrible thing about it is that we aren't competing against who they are in the world. We're competing against who they are online, on their media. Because social media feels so organic, because it can be so organic, because we can put up very unpolished and carefree offerings, we often feel like everything is carefree. Or we feel like, by contrast, because everything good is planned, we ought to plan everything like that. It's a blending of standards that destroys the right to care about ourselves before we're exceptional. We don't have to be exceptional to be worthwhile. We don't have to be exceptional to be loved, or we shouldn't. But that's the world we've made, isn't it? I don't think that's good for us. I think this might be why our mental health has been getting so much worse, especially for younger people, than it was in previous generations. We used to connect with people, now we follow them. It's not the same. It would be nice if we could be less lonely while we're interacting with the whole world, right? You would think more people would make us less lonely, but I don't think that's happened. It's been quite the opposite. It also leads to an almost infinite pool of people that we can replace people who disappoint us with. So cancellation of your friend, breaking up with your friend, blocking your friend, these are all common occurrences now. People don't even think about it a lot of the time, which means that if you make a mistake, even if you regret it later, you have no chance to apologize, you have no chance to mend that bridge, and every action you take suddenly has potentially permanent consequences. Your entire life can be determined by making a bad tweet one time. The world didn't used to work that way, and the amount of anxiety that could arise from growing up in that is... I didn't have the best upbringing myself, and that seems worse. It's something everyone experiences, especially young people now. But it seems worse than what I went through. And because of the way algorithms work, we sort ourselves into little silos of like-minded people with similar fears and similar hopes and similar hatreds and loves. And we all feed off of each other to reinforce it. And the thing is, I do all this too. It's great to have a well-curated feed with people who are genuinely interesting and saying things you want to know about and doing things you think are fascinating. That's fantastic. And for a lot of history, we didn't have that. Our lives were a lot more boring, a lot less interesting, and with a lot less entertaining aspects everywhere and accessible. But I think on some level it makes us expect that level of beauty and entertainment from even the people around us. And when they don't have it, they disappoint us. And when we don't have it, we disappoint our friends and our family and the people who are around us. And it's basically an impossible standard that's not just with regard to beauty, but with regard to our character, our charisma, our personality, our interests and activities. Everything all of a sudden must be to a professional standard, or people will go elsewhere for that. The really terrible part about this is that it makes the learning process taboo. It makes making mistakes a genuine risk that could ruin you for your entire life. This is all new. No one used to grow up with this, and I think that's the reason we're all going a little crazy today. All of us are deprived of the process of growing in peace, of making mistakes and correcting them, of offending people and apologizing and meaning it and having that apology accepted. These are essential parts of the process of maturing into a human being that is emotionally stable and functional. And because of social media, a lot of that's become taboo, unacceptable, a reason to reject someone, whether that someone is another person or yourself. Even acceptance is skewed. We used to have relatively diverse friend groups, not unspeakably diverse. There were always cliques. But nowadays, with the internet, our cliques can be incredibly narrow, incredibly focused, with all the same hopes, fears, interests, and pain points. We find people so similar to us that we think what we're horrified of and our resentment and our fear about ourselves and the world, we wind up horrified that we're always going to have whatever our pain points are and resentful of people who don't have them, because these communities create an impression of permanence, because we know so many people with these same issues who are at this same point in the journey and who don't seem to be moving on, and therefore encourage us not to move on either. Progress has been replaced by sorting. I don't think I need to explain why that's bad. We want to progress. We don't want to just find the people who are the way we are now and feel obliged to stay there because they're all staying there too. We want to move. We want to grow. We want to be, and we want to become more than we want to be. But nothing is built around that. And yes, this basic process is why our political polarization got so extreme. It's why a lot of polarization has happened, because people find people like them, and more importantly, how they are right now. Not how they wish they were, but who they are right now. It wasn't just biased mass media, it was social media, and the way that this new method of interacting with others shaped more mainstream media as it has grown and changed to adapt to our changing interactions, our changing expectations, our changing mores and needs and desires and fears. We all got isolated, we all siloed ourselves, and our perception of the world got skewed by those silos. We're all in a slightly different one, so the way it varies, to speak extremely eloquently. But we all get marginalized and feel marginalized because we know how small the group we're in actually is. A lot of these communities are built around shame and fear-based isolation that comes from these unreasonable expectations. And the bizarre shapes that it formed for the ways we see the world and each other and ourselves would be comical in their absurdity if it wasn't so dreadfully sad. Beauty has very much the same problem. You don't just need a sterling personality dripping with riz on the global attention market, you also have to be beautiful. Otherwise, your face will bother people. Or at least, you worry that your face will bother people. Once again, we didn't evolve for this. We evolved to seek and form close-knit tribes. We did not evolve to seek out likes and subscriptions from millions and millions and millions of different people, or at least thousands or hundreds of thousands. We didn't evolve to go out into the world and encounter random people and say, like and subscribe. I'm sorry. Did you think I was joking? I'm actually talking to you. You need to like and you need to subscribe. I'm begging you, please do it. Yes, this entire video is autobiographical. We used to connect with people. We used to be understood. We used to understand others. We used to support each other emotionally. But now we try to fill that same hole with our numbers going up, with posts that go viral. And it's not the same. It'll never actually be the same. Attention online, it ebbs and it wanes, and eventually it will stop entirely. Whereas a true friend, a true family member, they will always be there. They will always support you. It probably won't be that intense. And I think it's good that it's not. But you don't have to pander for that kind of connection. You don't have to shape yourself into some bizarre ideal because them seeing and embracing your outtakes, them seeing and embracing your flaws is the substance of the relationship. That's what we've lost. That's what the younger generation in particular are losing because they are trying to meet these absurd, impressive, highly curated, highly edited expectations. I don't know how you can relax in that world. I don't know how you can connect earnestly. And I see that in a lot of the people that I watch and a lot of the people that I read. Like, some of the people that I watch are very, very pretty, but They sit very still and they hold their head in a very specific way. And some of the people that I watch are very funny, but it becomes clear that they're not able to earnestly engage with anything they do. They create a wall of separation because they don't want the embarrassment of either genuinely failing or being too genuinely enthusiastic. There's this barrier to authentic expression that prevents connection even for people that do very well in this world. That can't be good for us. Who would we be if we weren't posing for cameras and scripting every word we're going to say? Who would we be if we didn't edit out the mistakes? These are the people we used to be. These are the people that we used to be known and loved for being. But now we call it cringe. Now we call it ugly. Now it's unworthy. I don't think it's actually unworthy. We've just collectively gone mad. I don't think that genie can be put back in the bottle. The toothpaste is out and it's squeegeed all over the counter, but I hope we find some way to love ourselves and each other despite all of this global competition for friendship of all things. We deserve better than this. We deserve to embrace ourselves even when we're wrinkly and have saggy skin and stretch marks. We deserve to embrace ourselves and each other even when we're awkward or weird or have inappropriately intense emotions. We deserve to be embraced even when we're enthusiastic about something simple and little and insignificant by normal standards. We're allowed to have passions and we're allowed to be unique and we're allowed to be imperfect. The imperfection itself is a lot of the allure of other people. It's what we fall in love with. It may not be what we like, but it is what we ultimately embrace when we decide that we really love someone. I don't know. I guess I just want people to be uglier and cringier so that I can feel better about myself. And so that everyone else can too. I want everyone to love themselves and each other. I don't want friendship to be a competition. I want us to all have a place and all have people that we can count on. And I want us to be people that other people can count on. And I'm often not that either. I was chronically online before it was cool. But it's difficult not to see the limitations, especially today. And those limitations are creating a competition that is morphing us into grotesqueries with giant puffy faces and personalities that don't actually make any sense, that aren't human, that are so fake. It's all set such an impossibly high standard that living is something we now watch people doing instead of doing ourselves. We're worried that if we actually do these things, we'll fail, or even if we succeed, we won't be likable. We consume the illusion of love and friendship and affection in Instagram reels and TikTok videos, and we do that instead of experiencing it for ourselves. These aren't even real. These things we're consuming, they're just performative acts meant to evoke that feeling. And it's a poor substitute. It's a substitute for living, and it's not a good substitute. It's thin, it's hollow, it's fake. It may look fantastic, but it's a pound of sugar poured in to cover up the lack of fat. Fake sugar at that. You lose the texture, you lose the taste. It's all just sweetness, and it's all curated. None of it's real. I'm not even real. This isn't life. This is art. But a lot of us are living art, measuring ourselves against art, instead of living our lives. We no longer embrace the mistakes, the process, the screw-ups, and the things we need to apologize for. That can get us outcast. That can get us blocked. And so we cover it all up. We hide it, and we pretend that we're never cringe, and we pretend that we're never ugly. These things are sins. They're taboos of modernity. Being human is taboo. Being flawed, being real is taboo. And that's a shame because life, actual life, not just the things that we make and share with others, is a creative process. It's a journey. It's a journey with mistakes and reiteration and with sections that you would erase in a final product. And that's part of the journey, and it's an enjoyable part of the journey, and it's a pity that it's now called cringe instead of learning. We want that perfect final product. We don't want the road we need to take to get there. And we will mock people for being on the road it takes to get there. It doesn't make any sense. It just discourages people from becoming better because they're discouraged from the process that will get them there. It's not any good. None of us measures up to the people we pretend to be. We need to start embracing the process, all the little gaffes, all the learning experiences, instead of expecting perfection from ourselves and each other. We can learn, we can grow, but we can't do it if we don't get comfortable with being cringe, with doing things that aren't quite right yet, with not being perfect. I am imperfect. I am deeply imperfect. And I hope you are too, because I love your imperfections. I love the things that you want to hide because they're the process of you growing moment by moment, and that's beautiful. Okay, that's all I have, and this isn't a thelema video. I mean, I am kind of talking about a thelemic principle of do what thou wilt instead of doing whatever the frick other people are saying you should do, and being cringe is a big part of doing you, and embracing mistakes is a big part of doing you, and therefore is part of finding your true will. But I don't actually know how to end videos in a normal way. I don't really just want to say bye, because it's not me. So I'm going to be ending this like I normally end things, which is with thelemic stuff. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law. Love under will.